Welcome to Wednesday night Satsang. Our Unity Women's Holiday Party is this Saturday, December 11th, from 2 to 4 p.m. in the bookstore. Come gather in person for some fun fellowship, refreshments, and discounted shopping. Please register through the link on our website, and we look forward to seeing you. One of the most powerful symbols of the Christmas story is the star, a sign from heaven to guide the wise to the birth of the Christ. When we walk through times of darkness, individually or globally, we must direct our gaze to divine truth, and a light will always shine to guide us home. Experience the light in the darkness this Sunday at 11 a.m. with featured musical guests, the Old Boys, high school students who are part of the boy choir under the direction of David York. The Light in the Darkness message will also be shared during our Sunday Spanish language service by Jeanmarie Specht. Please join us in the Pyramid at 9:45 a.m. Our sacred 12 Powers candlelighting ceremony takes place next Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the Pyramid, led by Reverends Karen, Jeanmarie, our licensed Unity teachers, and ministerial students. Drawing from the teachings of the Fillmores on our 12 Powers of the Christ within, we'll hold a contemplative ceremony to set a beautiful spiritual tone for the culmination of the Christmas season. Bring a friend for this very special Wednesday night satsang. You'll want to mark your calendars for our special end-of-year holiday services, all of which will be available to attend in person and watch online. Christmas Eve candle lighting services will be held at 5 and 7 p.m. on December 24th with the message of hope, the Christ is born in us. We'll have an American Sign Language interpreter at 5 p.m. and Spanish translator at 7 p.m. And New Year's Eve begins with our 6 a.m. World Peace Meditation and Breakfast in the Pyramid, led by Reverend Karen. Join with millions around the world in this coordinated time of ushering in a new era of peace on earth. Our sacred burning bowl ceremony will conclude the day at 7 p.m. in the sanctuary, where we'll let go of all we don't want to carry into 2022 through spiritual practice. If you're unable to attend or wish to attend remotely, you can fill out an anonymous form on our website with the things you wish to release, and we'll burn them for you. All these services are available in person and online. We hope you'll join us. Namaste.
Good evening and welcome to Wednesday Night Satsang, the principle and the practice of unity. Just invite you now just to know that you've arrived. Just relax and take a deep breath in. And in this moment and in this evening, just allow yourself to absorb this beautiful transition from daylight to nighttime. Wherever you are, seated in the position of comfort and support, knowing that this is your place, this is your time. And so as we open to receiving the gifts that will come forth in the next hour, just know that you are already filled, you are already enough, and that everything you need is already all around, in and through you. We feel ourselves connected near and far to those who are online watching us now, or who may be watching us in the future. Even now, we feel your presence in this room, filled with light, life, and love. It does its holy work. It heals us all. And so it is. Amen.
So we join together in our time of chanting, using the chant as a way of reawakening our awareness of our divine nature, of the joy and the love and the light that we are. Let's sing together.
Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love, serve, and remember? To love, serve, and remember. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love, serve, and remember? To love, serve, and remember. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love, serve, and remember? To love, serve, and remember. Love, serve, and remember. To love, serve, and remember.
Now we move into our mantra chant, Satanama. Satnam means the truth within you. There's also a hand mudra if you'd like to do it with me. You play your fingers like a piano. You can use both hands if you like. Satanama, 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 Satanama,
Satanama, Satanama, Satanama, Satanama, Satanama, Satanama, Satanama.
All things come from God, and all things go to God. Everything comes from God and goes back home again.
All things come from God, and all things go to God. Everything comes from God and goes back home again, and goes back home again. Satanama, 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 Satanama.
All things come
from God, and all things go to God. Everything comes from God and goes back home again. All things come from God, and all things go to God. Everything comes from God and goes back home again, and goes back home again.
Satanama, 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 So we move into our time of meditation. I invite you to close your eyes and find a seated posture where you can sit tall, your back straight, take a deep breath, let go. Relaxing, noticing your body sitting, feeling where your body is meeting the seat beneath you, how your feet are connected to the ground. Being aware of sensations in the body, emotions, thoughts, desires. Be present to what your experience is in this moment. We're going to be engaging in the practice from Living Originally, Robert Brummett's series that we've been doing, the process of Death is My Advisor. I invite you to take a moment to consider some statements regarding this practice, regarding your own mortality. Consider this statement: someday I will die. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I do know someday I will die. As you focus on this statement, notice how you feel. Notice any resistance, any fear or anxiety, anger or sadness. Be present to what you feel, physically in the body and what you feel emotionally. I invite you now to consider a few questions. As I share these questions, don't be concerned with coming up with an answer to the question. Just consider the questions themselves and see what arises. What do I fear most about dying? What do I fear most about dying? What would I miss the most when I consider my death? What would I miss the most when I consider my death? What feels important for you to finish before you die? What feels important for you to finish before you die? What legacy do you want to leave to your family, to humanity, to the earth? What is my legacy to my human family, to this earth? Pay attention to what you're experiencing in the body and emotionally. Now let go of those questions. And once again, consider your immortality, your death. Ask your death to give you an image of itself in some way, a form, an image. Allow whatever arises to be here without judgment, whatever the image is, just ask for an image to form. When the image appears to you, what do you feel when you experience its presence? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel in relationship to it? What do you feel in relationship to it? What is your experience of this image? Just noticing what you feel. And when you're ready, allow this image to communicate with you. Allow it to speak in its own way, in its own time, in its own words. Ask your image, what do you have to say to me? What do you have to teach me? What are you here to advise me in. Once you have heard or felt the words, respond to what you've heard in your own words and listen to its response to you. Allow yourself to dialogue with this image. Invite the image to be with you, to be your advisor. You can say goodbye to the image for now. Give thanks for the gift that it is for you. Even if you may not understand what that gift is now, that understanding may unfold in time. Feel gratitude for this opportunity to connect with this aspect of yourself, of your inner life. And feel the gratitude. Thank you. Thank you. So we conclude this practice being gentle with yourself or whatever you may have learned or experienced. Trusting in the process and all that is unfolding, knowing that you are supported in divine love and peace at all times. I invite you now to bring your attention to the body as we begin to bring our energy and focus back to the space, moving the body around in whatever way may feel comfortable for you, wiggling fingers and toes, rotating the shoulders. And when you're ready, allowing light to slowly enter into your eyes with a soft focus as you return your attention to our shared experience together in this space. And so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Jeanmarie. That was lovely and unexpected, right? A little bit unexpected, but trust that you've received a wonderful insight for yourself. And so this is the time in our service that we allow ourselves to be the vessels for receiving and for sharing and forgiving. It's a way for us to be in the flow of life and to be in the flow of good. And so as we prepare our offering to offer with this ministry and to enable Unity of Houston to reach so many more people and to be able to share the love that you feel for this ministry and what you receive here and what you practice in your life, that you may also bless the world through your gifts here. Just know that that is a part of our shared practice. And so as you prepare the gift, please just notice how your heart is. And if it's a little closed, just breathe into it for a moment. If it's warm and open, just continue to foster that experience, and just know that this is the movement of love. This is the movement of spirit. And so we will bless our gifts by calling it by its name. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. And so it is. Amen.
Invite to the stage my friend Catherine Campbell, who's here joining us to sing this evening. We had the opportunity to perform together in that musical I was talking about a lot back in October, You're in Town, the musical, and I'm so grateful that she's able to come and share her gifts with us tonight.
Thank you. I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I know you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I know you, I have been changed for good.
It well may be that we may never meet again in this lifetime, but let me say before we part, so much of me is made from what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart, and now whatever way our stories end, I know that you've rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you,
Because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
and just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for.
But then I guess we both have blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. And because I knew you,
because I knew you,
because I knew you, I have been changed for good. We were in the show together, but we didn't really didn't get to sing like that, do a duet, so this was very special. I'm so glad Catherine got to be here with us tonight. For Good. For Good is a song from Wicked. You're familiar with the musical Wicked. It's the story of Elphaba and Glinda, the two witches from Oz, and their backstory, the whole backstory about the Wizard of Oz and what really happened, right? What was going on. I thought of this song to share tonight for this topic, Death is My Advisor, because it seemed like unusual at the time that I had the opportunity to sing this song with a friend and mentor of mine, Britt Hall, at the memorial service for Rosemary Fillmore Ray, who is the granddaughter of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And it just seemed like such a perfect song on the topic of death and endings, and just how we can let go of so much of the day-to-day stuff that we hold on to, and just really see what good there was in a relationship, in a situation, and events in our lives. I believe that is part of the dying experience at the end of our life, where we really shed a lot of that old stuff that we don't need to take with us when we let go of this earth suit, and we remember the good, and remember the good that we've done, the good that was done for us. So what if, rather than feeling resistance to the tests of life, that stuff that just keeps coming up, and oh, there it is again, or why do I have to deal with that you look forward to them? What if we looked forward to them? What would that be like, to look forward? To see it as a compassionate alarm clock, the situation, saying, there's another way. There's another way you could see this. Is there another way that you could face the big issue in your life? How can this situation allow you to be changed for good? This practice that we're discussing tonight, it is the 8th practice from Living Originally, Robert Brummett's book, that we've been covering over the last several weeks. So this practice is called Death is My Advisor, and it's not meant to be morbid. It's meant to recognize that our mortality can be used as a gift and a practice. So what is this practice? What is the practice? And Robert Brummett shares with us that the essence of the practice is wrapped up in the expression of a story that he discovered of Carlos Castaneda, a young graduate student who went to Mexico in the 60s. He was actually doing research on psychedelic drugs, and he came to meet this sorcerer. That was his graduate research. He came to meet this a native Yaqui sorcerer named Don Juan Matus, who became his mentor. And this is what Don Juan said to Carlos in this time as his mentor about this topic. Death is our eternal companion. It is always at our left, at an arm's length. It has always been watching you. It always will until the day it taps you.
And these words penetrated deep into Carlos's body, giving him a feeling of nausea. And Don Juan continued, "The thing to do when you're impatient is to turn to your left and ask advice from your death. An immense amount of pettiness is dropped. If you catch a glimpse of it, or if you just have the feeling that your companion is there watching you, that death, companion of death." And Carlos plunged into a deep feeling of terror. And Don Juan continued. He said this, "Death is the only wise advisor we have. Whenever you feel that everything is going wrong and you're about to be annihilated, turn to your death and ask if that is so. Your death will tell you that you're wrong, that nothing really matters outside of its touch." And these words that Don Juan shared with him, they shook Carlos to the very core of his being, hearing this. And that's what happens when we face our death. And perhaps you had some experience of that during the meditation tonight as we reflected on an image of our death or on some thoughts around our legacy and our work on this planet in light of the potential end that we all have, the end to our life. We've been more comfortable as a culture making death impersonal. We see death all the time, but usually we see it in movies and TV, and it just seems like there's just the violence and the blood and everything, especially certain filmmakers who just really get into the gore of it, right? And we made it impersonal. According to one study, the average American child sees at least 8,000 murders on TV and many more in movies and in video games before they even graduate from elementary school. 8,000. So in that experience, death seems to happen. It's always happening, but it's happening to others. It's not personal, right? It's out there. It's on the screen. And even when we make death personal, have you noticed that we don't like to say the D word? We'll say somebody's made their transition, or someone's gone to be with the Lord, they've gone to a better place, they've passed on. When I was in ministerial school, one of the things that our instructor in our sacred service class taught us was that in your memorial service, you need to say, the name of the person, and that they have died. He thought it was very important that you say the word death because of this very thing, that the people who are there, the friends and the family, they need to hear it so that they can come to accept the reality of it, that this person, in fact, is not going to get up and start walking around or show up, answer the phone, all that kind of thing, that was something that he felt was important for us to impart, not over and over again, but just to make sure we included that word in there so we weren't bypassing it. We weren't kind of sugarcoating it, really allowing the gravitas of the situation to take hold and allowing people to grieve. It's funny in our culture, too, that even after death, we pay someone we don't know, if you're having an open casket, to dress the body up, to embalm it, and to make them look like they're going out to a party, and they're going for a night out. So that's another way that we put off that experience of death by letting ourselves experience the person again as if they looked like they were still alive. This practice of death as my advisor, it's not only meant for allowing death to be personal, but also to be like a companion, to consult with and to run things by in our lives. We can connect with that as a supportive and a positive energy. Last week, Reverend Karen talked about dancing with chaos, and death is the ultimate form of chaos. It is the greatest unknown that we've had people who have had near-death experiences, but they have not actually died, right? They died, they came back, right? They came back so they can tell us some of what that journey is, but we don't really know beyond that, beyond the going into the light of different ways that it's been expressed, for sure. We may have heard about it and that kind of thing, but still, it's that unknown of what's next. It's the greatest of the unknowns. And because it's the ultimate unknown, it's our deepest avoidance as humans. We really want to avoid it. Why do we avoid it? Well, physical death is the most powerful symbol of leaving everything that we've grown to build up for ourselves in our lives, right? And anything that we call me, mine, all of our stuff, right? Our possessions, our relationships, our children, our parents, all of that. To face death is to face the end of our ego identification. Ego only exists in time and space and form. Okay, it's a relative realm in metaphysical terms. It's relative realm only. It's not absolute realm, right? It's not an ultimate experience. It's a limited time experience for the use of this body in this time. We have this ego, and the ego only exists in relationship to something else. So one way that we can make the ego seem to disappear, according to Robert Brumman and this work, is this practice of accepting and facing our own death. So that is working with releasing some of that ego identification that can keep us from fully expressing our original nature, our divine nature, our true nature, because we get caught up in that ego identification of a certain persona, a certain way of being. The Bhagavad Gita says this: of all the world's wonders, what is the most wonderful? That no man, though he sees others dying all around him, believes that he himself will die. So we buy into this illusion that we'll live forever somehow. Somehow I'll be the one to live forever. I know Charles Fillmore did try. He tried to live as long as he possibly could, and he made it into his 94th year, so he did really well on that. We can waste a lot of time in that illusion of living forever, rather than really recognizing our limited time on this planet and utilizing that to the fullest. To the ego, death is the ultimate enemy, okay? To the soul, though, the soul that's seeking freedom, which is why I believe we're drawn to this unity path together, where we have a soul that, we are a soul that is seeking some freedom, right? Some greater awareness, some greater experience, that death is our ultimate advisor. And it's only when we allow the ego to release that identification, to be annihilated, as Robert Brumman says, that we begin to see much more of our true nature, that we are much more than the ego. We are that which is beyond the ego. And as long as we're alive, as long as we're conscious, the ego will not go away. Okay, we will always have the ego, so no fear there to work with this. You won't lose your ego. You won't just melt into oneness and no longer know who you are. That kind of, I don't know, whatever idea you might have that could be completely losing the ego. You won't lose it. What we're working it to do is to lose our exclusive identification with the ego as this limited person in this time and space, right? We're expanding ourselves. The ego is meant to serve us as the expression of our essential nature. So we can use the ego as a vehicle to fully express ourselves, our true nature, more into the world. And so that's its purpose, and that's how we can use it, really, as a servant to spirit. In Buddhism, this practice is called Maransat Maran Sati, okay? Death awareness is the translation of that word. And it encourages us to use the fact of our death to illuminate, to enrich our life. The Buddha told it this way in this parable. A man is traveling across a field and he encounters a tiger, a fierce tiger, so he flees. He runs, the tiger chases after him, and he takes him to the edge of a cliff. So coming to the edge of this cliff, the man catches hold of the root of a wild vine, and he swings himself down over the edge. And the tiger sniffs at him, he tries to get at him, and the man is trembling. And the man looks around to where he could go, and far below him, there's another tiger trying to eat him from below. So he's really stuck, and only the vine is sustaining him. Then 2 mice, one white and one black, little by little start to gnaw away at his vine. Okay, so we know what's coming here, I think. The man looks and he sees this luscious strawberry right before him off the side of this precipice, right? And grasping the vine with one hand, he reaches over, he grabs the strawberry, and he takes a bite. Delicious. How sweet it tasted. Noticing the sweetness in the presence of fear and the imminent approach of death. So if you knew your death was imminent, how would you enjoy today? How would you enjoy this moment? There is a story that Robert Brummett tells in the book that if you get a chance to read it, you might want to check it out, about how he and a group of 30 friends did this experiment where they decided to live a whole year planning a date that they would do their memorial. So a year later, they were going to do a memorial, and as if that was their death date. So they had one more year to live, and they would meet regularly, and they would talk about they made bucket lists and how they were preparing, and they actually did the memorial. And he said that through this process, that he brightened up, he lived his life more fully, he really noticed little things in the moment, in the day-to-day, that even though he did this some, I think, 1998 was the year he said he did it with his friends, so quite some time ago, so his death was not imminent at that time. It allowed him to live in a fresh way, in a new way. So this is how we can use death as our advisor. So when you're deciding whether or not to do something, one question you can ask yourself is, would I want to put that in my obituary? Would I want to see that in print? I've used death as my advisor before, and one of the ways that I used it, interestingly enough, was when I decided to do Urinetown, the musical. And it was something that came up, not something that was part of my normal routine as a minister, and I thought, that would be fun. I want to make sure I get that done before I die. I'd like to meet, and it was just so special to get to meet Catherine and the wonderful cast, and to have that experience, and to see also how that process really helped me to discern how I could make choices that were not necessarily choices that were the right choice for appearances or what have you, right? That my mind might conjure up as reasons to do things, but something that I wanted to follow my heart and felt was important to include in my life. So consider, as you're using death as your advisor, what legacy do you want to leave in the world? What legacy are you leaving by how you're showing up and what you're doing? And is there anything you'd want to shift to leave more of a legacy of love and generosity and peace and kindness, service? I'm going to end my message tonight with this poem that I just love. It's a fun poem, and it's by Mary Oliver. It's called The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Does everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what do you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Namaste.
Lovely finale. That was a great tribute to Mary Oliver, who has passed on actually, but she lives on, and her legacy of the amazing way that she looked at the world, and she shared it with us. So thank you. This has really been great. I really love what you've shared, and also the meditation. I just wanted to kind of share what the form was of death. I've always thought I've thought of death as being in some things that I've read from Rachel Naomi Raymond, who worked with people who were terminally diagnosed and were moving towards the end of their life, and there's just a lot of rich stories, and one of them is about how death is kind of like behind them, and they just keep turning around thinking it's just like right there, and but not in a creepy weird way, because that sounded creepy weird, but it really is kind of like there's something that's always been here, but I've always kind of known it, but in the back of your mind you kind of knew it, but now you really kind of saw it, and but didn't describe it. And so in this meditation, for me, I tried to follow the directions, and death appeared to me just blackness, just really darkness, but yet intelligent, and was conversant and at peace, and not malevolent or anything, and I felt a little cool. I felt a little coolish temperature, and then I think you asked us to ask some sort of question, and somehow I think I asked the question, what will happen, when you come for me, or whatever, when I go to you, and sort of he sort of said it, but also demonstrated it, and opened a big void, opened his mouth. He says, I will swallow you, and swallowed me up, and I was birthed into the cosmos, of just stars. And then I said, but where's the light? They tell you you're going to go to the light. And he said, well, look down at yourself. You're bringing the light. And so I thought, yeah, does that really happen, though? I mean, No, but I really thought it was so unexpected and sweet, and I'm going to play with that a little bit more. So that was my experience. What was yours, David?
Well, I really appreciate that you're speaking of, and the meditation was speaking of death as metaphor, as a character, as a guest, and you can dialogue with it. So I get the value of that. It's really interesting, we think of death as a thing, we attribute it qualities, when actually it's not life. And it doesn't surprise me at all, you saying how we see death all around us, and we know it's going to happen to everybody, except of course us, right? Because earlier this year, I don't know what I can attribute it to, but there was a point where, sort of a combination of what I was reading and what I heard on the radio and just my own meditation, where it's going to sound silly and sophomoric just to state it so plainly, but I was experiencing it as an epiphany that our human condition is we're incapable of imagining not life. So that's why we have all this conversation about afterlife, and we attribute qualities to death. And we just don't have the capacity to imagine non-existence. We don't at all. And so I was riveted by that and noticed then how quickly I had to snap out of it and come into making stuff up again. That was more comforting. And then this week I heard Jane Goodall in an interview, and she's 87 years old, right? And so the interviewer said, so what are you looking forward to next? I mean, here's one of the greatest scientists of our generation. And she said, death. And the interviewer was a little bit perplexed by the response, and she said, yeah, I mean, there's the real possibility that there's nothing after life. That death just ends life, and okay, that's fine. If that's what happens, then okay. But as the next adventure, if there is something after death, then I want it. I want to experience that. I thought that was pretty remarkable to hear her say that. And there's a lot to be said on this topic of death. I have a little bit more to offer about expectancy, but I'll listen.
Have either of you seen the show The Good Place?
Yes.
So you've seen it. Oh, it's so great. So they explore the idea of what the afterlife is like, and that there's a bad place, a good place, and a medium place. And it's fun. I really like what they ended up uncovering as not only the good place, but also what would happen after the good place. It's really interesting, too. So I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Well, earlier you were also saying about how would this very day I heard someone talking that there is a moment that it's the last time you put your child to bed. There is a last time that you do the various things in your life, but we don't know when that is. And if you knew that this was going to be your last meal, or your last time to put up a Christmas tree, or your last time to do these things, then you would bring to it such preciousness, such value, such presence of mind. And we don't know when that is. So we may as well live every moment as if that's what's going to happen. Yeah. It's a good concept, right? And then I'm also reminded of the whole business of expectancy. Earlier, today is Tanya's birthday. Happy birthday, Tanya, if she's watching. And she shared it with the staff yesterday that she was just enjoying living in the expectancy. And then Michael reminded us that we're in the period of Advent. And what Advent is, it means anticipation. And so I don't want to anticipate death, but on the other hand, that's our lesson tonight, is to use it as our teacher and to ponder, well, what is in this gap of where I am now and not now? And that I have actually gotten some value out of living in this state of expectancy as an end game in and of itself. That this holding capacity for anticipating something. It's really a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. He suggests the practice of dialoguing with death. You could either put death in a chair and talk to death and then switch places and be death and give answers. Or you could journal. And I did the journaling back and forth, and it's just amazing what kind of things just show up as you imagine that advisor there of the end of your life. And I also happened to recently read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book on the end of life, and how fascinating it was that she had comforting about that. There were so many people who shared positive experiences, and it just seemed like every near-death experience that she encountered and studied was all something positive that came through.
Right, exactly. I've been long interested in studying near-death experiences from ministerial school, actually, and largely just thinking that if so much experience has happened, because I only heard of like 1 or 2 rare cases or whatever. This is in the early 90s, and I hadn't heard about all of the books that were written or the stories that were put together or studied. And so I made it my business then to start taking a look at that, because I really wanted to be able to see the through thread, to see for myself, what is this perception? What is this teaching us? And I like what you said. We talk about near-death experiences as though they're certifiable, and this is what we're told. But the truth is, they came back. So like, there's some, most people don't come back. So what's on the other side? What's going all the way? And what is that like? I'm very optimistic. I really believe there's life after this experience. I think there's been life. I think I'm living an eternal life, and I think I'll have consciousness with that. That's just my bias, and I'm kind of also resigned to. It's out of my control if I'm wrong. If it turns out the lights just go out. Boop, and boop. Gone. It's like, what are you going to do about it? It's like there was nothing. I don't want to regret anything. And the deal is that even though I think there is life going on, I don't think this is a wasted life, or that I could, that I want to waste this life. I know therefore, how precious this life is, because it is so short. Because it has a beginning and an end. And even if my spirit or my soul is continuing on and stringing these, life experiences together in some crazy way, that still this one matters, and it matters now. And this is my chance. I don't know what to do what. I need to tap in, and I need to be sure that I'm doing whatever I thought was such a good idea, to get into this, flesh suit and be here, be here now. And so in doing this and being this, it makes it much more precious, don't you think? And it just makes you so much more engaged when you think of it, which is what I love about what you shared about Robert's experiment, I guess his experiment, of pretending his life was coming to an end at a particular date, and seeing what a difference that made in anticipation of that. I was going to say one other thing about that, but I will come back to it. I guess I'll stop, because I want to hear what else is cooking.
Well, the ghost of Christmas past certainly was effective for Scrooge, sort of imagining your life in retrospect. That's always a really useful exercise at various times in our life. Reflect on what would we be saying to ourselves as in our final days. Like, is this really what you wanted to do with your life? It's a valid question to ask anytime.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing I was going to say is the advantage of personifying death in some way, or anthropomorphizing, or just metaphoricizing it, or whatever you're doing, whatever you do to make it a thing. It has the advantage, really, of giving perspective, because I know now, as a grandmother, I know now, at this stage of my life, the arc of life, and going back into remembering how nervous I always was about raising my children, and every little thing that they did that was, something unexpected or something they shouldn't be doing, or I didn't want them to do, or whatever. And I was just fearful that they were just going to spin out of control and go, down a path that I couldn't pull them back onto, that everything mattered so much. It was such a big deal. And of course, now as a grandmother, I go, they do that for a while. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, probably they won't. I don't know, they might, but they probably won't. They'll probably just come back because after all, that's not what you're doing, right? So, they're pretty much going to come back to whatever you're doing, And just, I have a much more, I got a bigger arc, of life. And I think that's the advantage death has for us. There is a part of us that knows that wisdom of what we're here for and what to worry about and what not to worry about, what matters and what doesn't matter. And I think checking in with that part is whatever you want to call it, or however it is that you do that. The journaling, I've done that. It's so powerful, and it's so crazy that you think it's coming out of you, but immediately that you would never have thought of that. You would never have said that. And that even just the way it says it, is different than the way I speak. So, and it's not, I don't know, it's just very cool. So it's a cool part that you're tapping into that is already a part of you, and that will give you that wisdom and that advice that, things are okay. You're going to be all right. You already are all right. It's all going to work out.
Yeah. I'd love to share my image that came to me, not while I was leading the meditation, but when I did it prior, that the image that I got was this black charred heart that had a fire in front of it. And so what I felt from it was like, all that stuff that drives me crazy, it's all going in there in the end. It's all burning up and transforming back into love. It's all returning to love. So that's what that death experience is, or is going to be, or what it can be for me when I use it. And I recognize that there's a lot more stuff I could let go of and live more fully.
Oh, I stepped on my cord. I love that. I love that so much. I do a card of that.
I was thinking of that too. A soul collage card is
card
on the horizon for that, for sure.
Oh, that's such a great image. And that's a beautiful image. So this is the time where we move into our prayer time. So as you consider the things that are weighing on you, on your heart, concerns that you have about yourself or others in your life, if anything that we've touched on this evening has resurrected some heaviness, grief, or sadness, some things that people in your life perhaps that are ill or have been or have passed, this might be a time that you want to remember them and invite them into this prayer time with you. And so I just invite you near and far to know that just all you need is the sound of my voice to know that you are in this room with us, you are in this experience with us, that the now that you experience is our now, and we're in now together. And in the vast space among us, every potential, every bit of good, love and light is already here, already holding us, already feeding us, sustaining us, loving us. We are all right now. And so as we consider those we wish to see healed or whole, those that we, conditions that we wish to see to be different than they are, whatever, we would like to add our positive energy to bringing forth a higher vibration in the lives of those we love or in conditions that we see, however it is. Let us now know that as we speak the name or the condition into the space among us, that the infinity of every good thing envelops it, and transforms it. And so let us know that as we speak these names, it is done. Releasing them now, releasing the conditions and the people we love. Let us know now that we too are released, are freed, are open, have received. We are becoming more. We are the light of the world, as Jesus told us. We bring the light. We are the bearers of the love. We are the portals through which the universe loves this planet, these people, these sentient beings everywhere, and space and earth and life and light bestows their holy power in us, around us, through us, as us. And it is done in us, and so it is. Amen.
As we join together tonight in our metta practice, our prayer for the welfare of all beings, we remember that the purpose of our coming together on Wednesday nights is not only for our own spiritual unfoldment, but also for the upliftment of all beings on the planet. So as we share this prayer together, let us remember that. By the power of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they know the sacred joy that arises in the space beyond suffering. May they rest in equanimity that knows no grasping or hatred. May they experience the equality of all beings. May my practice be of benefit to all. Namaste, namaste, I bow to you. Namaste, 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 go shine your light into the world. Namaste, namaste. Namaste, namaste, go shine your light into the world. Namaste, namaste, namaste.
everyone. Be safe.